Therwan Sarnai. How is everyone doing? Wet? Just a little bit? Cold? Cold or cool? Cool. Nice. Cool is nice. Shouldn't be cold. Be cool. You know, I was just thinking, contrary to maybe common misconception, and I don't subscribe to this one bit, I never have done, but some feel and some believe that this is true. That the closer you are to Colombo and the urban areas, so the city, the closer you are to the city and to modern living, the less you have devotion, piety, respect and regard for that which is sacred, for that which is holy, for that which deserves recognition, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. So contrary to common misconception, I have to say that in my experience of visiting Rajagiriya and associating with you all, nothing could be further from the truth. It is sometimes baffling to see the regard with which you hold with such high esteem the Mahasangha, and the respect, the devotion, the love that you have in your heart towards the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Noble Triple Gem, towards the Sasana. On many occasions I have observed this, countless occasions I have to say. So I don't think it is right what people think. I think it's very wrong. Perhaps they have not associated with people who are like you. The devotion with which you welcome the Swamin Wahanse from the moment he walks in, not just into the hall, but from the moment he gets out the vehicle. The pavada laid out so meticulously. And the umbrella that comes running on two little legs, usually they're little legs. And how just on the sight of the Swamin Wahanse, your hands come together to express your love, your devotion and your respect. You know, to this day, as you know, once we walk in to the school premises, we wait until things are set up here. The gentleman who comes and invites the Swamin Wahanses to come up to the sermon, never has he made that invitation standing on his 2 feet. He's always got down on his knees and made that invitation with such regard and respect that it would be difficult to refuse such an invitation. And then as you hold the umbrellas and walk the Swamin Wahanses up, now these are sights that not many of you see, because by that point you are all in here. And then there's a little rug that gets placed in the elevator. I don't know if you've had the fortune of seeing that, or laying it out. So it's just a little bit smaller than the floor space that you have in the elevator. So I can see the gentlemen and the children who hold the umbrellas, they tiptoe into the elevator, being very mindful that they don't step on it. That rug is too big for the two of us. It doesn't need to be that big. Today I was thinking to myself, why don't we just fold it in half? Because there's more of you than there is of us. It's just two of us getting into that elevator or the lift. But as they try to stand on the fringe of it and not allow even a toe to come into contact with the rug, it's highly commendable. Not necessarily the act. I rejoice in it, in what you do. And then from the time you walk into here, the devotion with which you get down on your knees and then you wash the Swamin Wahanse's feet. Now the ladies in here are thinking, yeah, Swamin Wahanse, why not us? Remember, there is no us here. Us is us. One us is English us, the other us is Sinhala us. Us is for us. There is no us doing here. And then the devotion with which you wash the feet, and then you wipe it so tenderly. And it's always white. Even the rugs that get placed out here. I sometimes am very worried if I might soil it with the dirt that might be left on my feet. So we make it a point to try and wash our feet before we walk out of the washrooms, lest we leave some dirt on the magnificent rugs that you place. Do you get them brand new every week? I wanted to ask. And then as we walk in here, just even the arrangement of the flowers. It's not just some random flowers thrown onto a tray. Yeah, you can see the devotion with which it is all done. Each flower, I'm sure, is placed so lovingly, so respectfully, and with such devotion. Because you know where this is going to end. The flowers are going to end with the Buddha, and those who place the flowers on the tray are going to end in Nibbāna, which is again with the Buddha. And that's only the start. Then, of course, the sermon. And then at the end of the sermon, that's a whole other gig. I sometimes wonder whether I'm keeping you all behind because you all want to come and pay your respects. Because I know you're very busy people. I know what my life was like when I used to be a layman. So I can only imagine holding this many of you Colombians, not Colombians, but Colombians, in this room here, after it is due for me to release you, I can't help but wondering whether I'm costing the economy for every minute that you all spend in here. Because you're all very important people and highly sought after people who make things happen in this country, in our nation. People want you in their lives. They need you. Your families need you to begin with. Your friends need you. Your neighborhood needs you. But so patiently you will all wait in a queue, waiting for your turn to come up to Swamin Wahanse. And some people have short stories, others have novels. Both of which we accept most gracefully. Because people have concerns that they feel if they would just have a moment to express with the Swami Nuhanse, that itself will give them some relief. Sometimes I hardly say anything. You know. Most of the time you come up here and you say something. I listen. Sometimes that's all you need. A sounding board. Someone to listen to you without judgment. That's very difficult to find out there, isn't it? People who listen without judgment. Swami Nuhanse, I'm addicted to this. Swami Nuhanse, I just can't do without that. Swami Nuhanse, I feel suicidal. Swami Nuhanse, I'm addicted to drugs. Swami Nuhanse, I have another one on the side. You just want someone to listen to you non-judgmentally. Because you trust that with the things that Swami Nuhanse says to you, if the Dhamma is true and his practice reflects what he preaches, then you can be rest assured that what you say will only be a conversation between our 4 ears. You don't get that very much out there. Because people have their own agendas, that's why. Everyone's watching out for their own self-preservation. People are willing to listen to you, ladies and gentlemen. They're willing to spend time with you and be with you for as long as you are not a threat to their existence. Simple as. If they would feel that you are a threat to their existence, then they become a threat to yours. That's why a man who has an affair, maybe let's say an extramarital affair, it will be very difficult for someone like that to walk up to his wife and lay it bare. Because? Why is that? Because now it's a threat to her existence. Because in her mind, she wants to feel that she is the most loved person, or the one and only, to at least another person in this world. And so when you get to hear that your other half, your better half is no longer the better half, that he or she is no longer the better half but the worse half. You're also bad, but he's worse. When you get to hear that it is such, then what happens? Now it's a threat to your existence. Not your physical being. Not the physical existence. You should understand by this point that existence is what you create in your mind and then have to sustain. That is existence. Extinction is the opposite of existence. Yadidang sabba sankhara samato is extinction. That is what Nibbāna is going to bring you. Extinction. You don't have to die for that. All you have to do is to cease creating these various existences in your mind. The wife is one such existence. When you were younger, you didn't create that in your mind because you were just a daughter. And then maybe you became a girlfriend, a fiancée, and at one point you became the wife. All that happened in your mind. Each persona you create, and that becomes your existence. So who are you? It depends. It depends on who's standing next to you. If it's your mother, who are you? You're the daughter. If it's your friend, you are the best buddy, the best friend. If it's your husband, I'm the wife. You're no longer the mother now. You're no longer the daughter. See? What is existence? That is existence. That is the existence that you should try and bring to an extinction. So once those personas cease to exist, now you are simply nature. Nature does not have to do anything to exist itself. It is natural. All of these things that you feel exist within your mind, those are artificial. So you have to keep on doing it time and time and time again. Anyway, we are getting into the depths of it now. Come back. But that's the reason that you feel you can come and express and spill your heart out here. And on occasion, you will come up and say, Swami Nahansa, I'm young at heart, but my knees are not such. And as much as I would love to get on my feet, on my knees right now, Swami Nahansa, if I do, I will have to be here till tomorrow. So please forgive me, you say. Let me say it now, ladies and gentlemen. I have no requirement for you to get on your knees. What I'm trying to do is to get you down on your mental knees in front of the Buddha. Buddha is Nibbāna. For you to accept Nibbāna. That's what I want you to do. That's where I need you to get down on your knees, not in front of me. That's why I say if you are in a rush or not, you don't actually have to come up here to mark your respect. You can actually do it from wherever you are, and if you want it, you can turn around and do it to the other wall. That's perfectly fine as well. Now don't we all like to worship the Buddha and pay our respects to the Buddha? Where is he today? He's not here. So which direction should you turn? Should you be looking? Do you need a statue for that? Why? And besides, why should the statue be at home? There are plenty of statues all over the world. So no matter which direction you turn, there's a statue somewhere. If not here, in India. Or somewhere in Russia. Just turn another 30 degrees and there's a statue in Russia somewhere. So it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Buddha represents nature. He's the truth. So, must you get on your knees to worship? That is not necessary. But I don't forbid you from doing that, because it is an opportunity for you to do it wholeheartedly. You put your mind and body and your soul into it, and that spurs a fountain of merit in your heart. And I like for you to do that, because that's what you need, merits, to walk this path. So that's why I don't forbid you from putting down the pavada, holding the muthukuda, because one could ask, what's the point? When it's neither raining, now it's sunny, why do you need a muthukuda? Why do you need an umbrella? Like I think I related this story to you. There was a gentleman who came who was very new to the sasana, new to the Dhamma, did not understand how monks work, and actually he had a grudge with clergy in general, but monks in particular. So he was having a conversation with us, and then he saw an Anagarika Mahata walking a Swami Nahansa to a sermon. And then he said, these are the things that I really despise. Why does that bald-headed fellow need an umbrella? And why can't he hold it himself? Why does he need a manservant? That's the thing. If you look at everything from that angle, then you've lost the plot, really. It's not the umbrella, it's not the carpets, it's not the rugs. It's what your mind's doing at that moment. It's the joy that you're generating in your heart. That's what merit is. Bing. When your heart is happy, your heart is generating merit. So if you can get on your knees then, and you want to, be my guest. I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but no apology necessary if you cannot. It is not a mark of disrespect. It is not a mark of disrespect that you cannot get on your knees, just as much it is not a mark of respect that you do. Because could you not be really annoyed with the Swami Maharaj but still get on your knees? Like this wretched monk, I have to worship him as well. After having listened to him for the last 2.5 hours, now we have to get on our knees also. Who does he think he is? I have never bowed in front of anyone. Do you think that's a mark of respect? Where's the respect now? It's not the action. It never is, and it never was, and it never will be. Listen to your heart. Listen up to what it says. If it's joyful, if it's happy, then let it be. Let it do what it wants. If it's vexing, if it's annoyed, if it's angry, you might as well not do that. You might as well not do that. So when you offer alms in the afternoon, typically everyone likes to take part in that, right? Typically, everyone likes to take part in that, and that's why you all bring something as whatever you can cobble up, you bring in. I think cobble up is a grave understatement, because I can imagine, even if it's just a small container of something, maybe a bit of rice or something, I can imagine the devotion with which you must be fixing that and preparing it at home. Maybe you chant Pirit over it or something. I don't know what you do. Perhaps you wake up and that's the first thing you do, maybe. Your devotion, that is yours, as you wish. Because what's most important is not what the end product is, it's the journey there. As they always say, success is not the destination, right? It's the journey. So the journey that you take to prepare that, the steps that you take, your thoughts, the goodwill, bringing everyone at home together as much as you can, that is the most important part, ladies and gentlemen. It's not what you bring. It's not the actual meal that you cook. It's the cooking. It's that part. But of course, after you do that, something has been made, so you might as well offer it. And that's the way I see it. So, but what I was going to say was, from time to time, there might be the odd person who doesn't really rejoice in that. So, we must always be conscious of that, and maybe not force someone to do it. You can always offer. I know there are those who bring a bit extra so that someone else can be offered the opportunity to do that. And kudos to you. Wow. That's just beautiful. The fact that you think like that. I have seen on some occasions, people, they bring something and then they realize that someone else or some others haven't brought anything, and what they do is they offer the whole thing, and then they stand aside with their palms in veneration and they just rejoice in it. That's exactly what the doctor ordered. It's what I always tell the ladies. Don't worry about you not being able to hold the mudugudi. It's not about the hand that holds it. It's the heart that rejoices in it. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about you not being able to wash the Swami Maharaj's feet. In your mind, you're probably putting it in the laundry. The whole Swami Maharaj, you're probably washing not just the feet. I know, you know. So don't worry about that. Don't worry one bit about that. It's not the important part. It's actually really insignificant. The hand that does it, insignificant. It's the heart that rejoices in it. That's where merit is born. That's where the Dhamma is born. That's where Nibbāna is born. Not in the hand. It's in the heart. So what I was going to say was, from time to time, there might be the odd individual, and I will, just to clear the air, it's not that there has been someone like that, or someone I got to know on the Great Point that someone had been, nothing like that. So you need not be wondering, who was it? Was it I? Did I push someone a bit too much? No, nothing of the sort has happened, okay? So, relax. Nothing has happened, but it's just something for us to be mindful of. When you get onto a bus, imagine there's this gentleman or a lady who's sat on a seat, and then you see a Swami Nuhanse get into the bus. If the person's not prepared to offer their seat, they're not prepared to offer their seat. If you feel that they haven't seen it, then you could just, say, Swami Nuhanse has got onto the bus. Just generally. You don't have to hey, Mr. Swami Nuhanse, bus, up. Can't you see? Reserved for clergy. That's not our part to play. Because what if he gets up but he's really annoyed now? What if he's really annoyed? Maybe he's tired. Maybe he's the one who needs the seat more than the Swami Nuhanse. Maybe he's got a bad knee. Who knows? By looking at someone, you can't work that out, can you? So our task is simply to make opportunities available. We don't have to push anyone to do anything. So if someone's there and they haven't brought anything to offer for alms, you can always ask, but ask in a way that they can refuse. Sir, would you like to offer some? And he says, actually no, I'm all right. Okay. Don't throw question after question to why don't you want to offer? Why are you weird like that? So we need not probe them. Just make the opportunity available, because eventually they will want to do it. But if you get someone to do something too soon and they're not prepared for it, it's like the egg, isn't it? If you crack an egg from the outside, what happens to the chick? What happens? It dies. When the chick is ready, what happens? The egg cracks from the inside. All you've got to do is nurture it from the outside. Don't crack the egg. Just nurture it. Give it the right temperature. Keep it warm. That's exactly what you're doing here. It's what the Dharmishta Rajagiriyan community is all about. It's the smiles. That's what brings people here. That's what keeps them coming back. It's not just a sermon. Because these sermons, can you not watch online? You could do, right? But so then why make the effort to wake up in the morning, pump fuel into your cars and get everyone else in the family into your car, get them dressed, get them washed, brush their teeth, and get them all in here, fix breakfast. Today's a Sunday as well. It's the one day of the week that God said you should rest. It's the one day you get to rest, because Saturdays perhaps you do half days as well. So it's the one day you have to rest, and then despite all that, you put in the effort and put the energy to come here and bring everyone here. The fact that people are prepared to do that, it's not just because of the sermon. It's not because of this Swami Nuhanse or any other Swami Nuhanse for that matter. It is always the community. And I'm not just saying this to be polite to you. This is not me flattering you. I can imagine myself in the audience. If I was in the audience, I'd keep coming back because of who you are. Otherwise, I could stay at home and watch the same thing online. Yes or no? Don't you feel love and affection from the people sat among you? Do you not genuinely feel that? That's what I mean. The fact that they care about you. You see, that is the proof. As I say, the proof is in the pudding. This proof is in the audience. The proof that this Dhamma works is amongst you. The soft-spoken nature that you have towards one another. the gentle and loving welcome, the looking after, the taking care. That is the proof that the Dhamma works. Because people have, and they keep going to other places, other communities, other get-togethers, and they don't experience the same thing. Something's different about you. And that I cannot do because I'm here, you're there. I only see you when I start the sermon, sit here, and then until the end. That's it. But as you come in here and say you struggle to find the school, you ring a number. Right? There's probably a number somewhere, and you ring the number. And then from the moment that they say hello, or they say, Teruvan Saranai. Mata, where are you? Are you struggling to find where the school is? Okay, so whereabouts are you right now? Okay, so do this, do that, take a left turn here, go around the roundabout, and then you'll find, if you have trouble, just ring me back again, no problem at all. In that, there's a lot of love. I'm saying that is what is doing the magic. You are the broth. I'm just showing some rampe and some karapincha. That's all I do. You are the magic ingredient. Because this is all about mending minds and healing hearts. That's what these sermons are for. That's what the Dhamma is for. The Buddha did not come into the world to preach the Dhamma to rocks and trees. He came into this world to heal hearts so that people can live more harmoniously. People can live in each other's embrace. People can extend more humanity towards each other. If you take out humanity from a human being, what's left? Just an animal. The more self-centered people are, the less altruistic they are. So, if we can give a remedy, give the medicine to eradicate the self, then you stop thinking about yourself and you start thinking about everyone. And that's what's happening here, ladies and gentlemen. You are the proof that the Dhamma works. The Sangha is the proof that a Buddha ever existed and that he preached the Dhamma. Sangha is the evidence. When I say the name Sariputta Thera, do you all of a sudden conjure in your mind all the Dhamma that he knew, or what a wonderful person he must have been? That's what first comes to your mind, isn't it? When I say the name Ananda Thera, who lived as a servant to the Buddha, can you imagine the devotion that he must have had towards his master? I can only imagine the queen or the princess Yashodhara would probably have been the one who came anywhere close to that kind of commitment and devotion. Of course, it's a different guise altogether, I understand. But if anyone ever came any close to that much love, devotion and commitments towards the Buddha, it must have been the Queen Yashodhara in the Buddha's or the Siddhartha's lay life. But then after he came into the sasana, after he became the Buddha and he appointed his chief attendant, then you can imagine, for all intents and purposes, he must have looked after the Buddha just as well as Yashodhara looked after Prince Siddhartha when he was in his lay life. So when I say Ananda Thera, he was also the treasurer of the Dhamma. Do you know what it means to be the treasurer of the Dhamma? Can you understand the significance of that role? The treasurer of the Dhamma? 84,000 suttas preached by the Buddha, and the treasurer has to be accountable for all that. They have to keep it all in the treasury and on demand must be able to relate it back. But it's not that comes to your mind when I say Ananda Thera. What comes to your mind is the love, the devotion, the respect with which he must have tended to his master. That's being a good human being. And through him, you may learn and you may inspire. How can I be like that to my mother? How can I be like that to my father? How could I be like that to my husband, to my wife? As a son, how can I be like that to my parents? See, these are the role models. It's not what they knew. It's what they had become in their hearts. That's what we aspire to. So, why am I saying all this? I'm saying, you are the litmus test that the Dhamma works. I know from within myself that the Dhamma works. Because I know who I used to be and I know who I am today. I know how my thinking has changed. I know how my conduct has changed. I know how my approach to other people and other situations have changed and how they have transformed over the years. In just the same way, ladies and gentlemen, in Rajagiriya the Dhamma works. How do we know? Ask the person sat next to you and they will tell you all about you. That's how we know. They will tell you all about you. For me, that is the real gift. Because I have come into this world for a purpose. I have not come into this world just to study the Dhamma and preach the Dhamma. We could record audio tapes and do that. That's not what this is for. This interaction that we have is to make beautiful human beings. Like I always say, whether the Dhamma works for you, you will know if you have become a better mother, a better father, a better son or a better daughter. How do you know? Ask them. Ask them. If you have become a better husband, a better wife, if you have become a better boss or manager or supervisor or employer to your subordinates, if they are happier where they work, that is a little bit of evidence that something's happening within you. It's not just the money. Money doesn't make people happy. Honestly, money doesn't make people happy. How do you know? Why are you here then? You got money, haven't you? So why are you here then? Money doesn't make people happy. Have you not seen some people who are really poor? They can barely make ends meet, but they're happy. They don't worry as much. They don't fear as much. They don't stress as much. And they live in a very loving environment. They have a loving family, people who wait for their return from work, from school, and they greet each other and in each other's loving embrace. Although they have not much to eat, they look after each other. They speak lovingly to each other. They're very tolerant of each other's weaknesses. And they understand that human beings, we all make mistakes. Where they're accepted. That's what everyone's struggling for. Acceptance. Whenever you walk into a group, into a new crowd, what are you looking for? To be accepted. Yeah. So in your family, if you don't feel accepted, you don't call that a family. It's called a family because you feel familiar. That's why it's called a family. You feel familiar because you are accepted. It's difficult to accept when you have your own personal agendas. Then it's very difficult to accept. See, so when your personal agendas are gradually ceasing to exist, and you become someone who lives not for yourself but for everyone. To put it very simply, when you become someone who lives to love but not loves to live, when you can become someone who lives to love, that's why you live. You live to love. Then you become more and more accepting of each other. And so even in your families, ladies and gentlemen, you become a blessing to be around. If the Dhamma has been doing something to you, if it has been working its magic on you, then you know that what I'm saying is true. Otherwise, Still, bear it in mind, this is something that will happen to you in the future. But all in all, this is why we practice the Dhamma. It is not for you to become more proficient in the Dhamma. It is not for you to be educated in the Dhamma. It's not to give you a title at the end of your name. We are not here for a PhD in the Dhamma, are we? No, I'm not going to give you a confer a PhD in the Dhamma. In fact, if you get your Dhamma wrong, then you'll get a PhD. A permanent head damage. But here, we are not here for the accolades. We are here so that we become more accepting of each other. That's why I always say, if you're struggling to live happily at home with your spouse, don't send him here. You come. Because the day that you realize the problem is with you is the day that you start paving the path to your freedom, to your happiness. What do people typically tend to do? Who do they take to the counselor? The other person. Swaminathan, talk to this fellow. I've been trying to explain to him, but he just won't listen. Simple things don't make sense to him. I'm like, yeah, simple things don't make sense to you either, does it? In life, all you have are boomerangs. Whatever you throw, it just turns around and comes back at you. So if ever you have to live with someone you just can't get along with, then whose fault is it? Whose fault is it? Only one person. The fault is with you. I'll tell you what. Because there will be someone who can bear them. It's just not you. That's why it happens, in certain relationships. Because you start living together and you think it's all going nice and well, but then afterwards you realize that they've got another thing on the side, and then things just start going sour and the whole thing starts falling apart. Then you wonder what happened. He started to change. It's not that that's not what happened first. Or she started to change. That's not what happened first. What happened first was they began to feel that you were not accepting of them. That's what they started to feel, that you were not accepting of them. You were not accepting of their weaknesses. Whenever someone we feel does something wrong to us, we expect them to change, don't we? Just as much as it is difficult for you to change, ladies and gentlemen, it is also difficult for someone else to change. They're also humans just like us. They're not different to us. Even little things, how difficult they are to change. Just little things. It's very difficult to change. Just as much as it is difficult for us to change, it is difficult for others to change as well. But we don't think of it like that. We think if they know that if we have proven it to them that they're wrong, now it's for them to change themselves. And then you expect it to happen just like that. That's your wishful thinking. That's the thing. That's your jati doing that to you. So that's where things start. They feel that you are not accepting of them. And that's when they start looking for acceptance outside of their relationship, outside of their marriage. But you only find out much later in the process. And then sometimes it's too late to fix them. But, I have to say, and I'll precept you, don't worry. I have to say, there are many a time that we have saved a marriage. In my experience, I personally have been able to do that on several occasions. In every one of those occasions, in each one of those occasions, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, all I did was I told them, be more accepting of their weaknesses. If you cut the long story short, in a nutshell, that's all I said. Be more accepting of their weaknesses. Because there are temperaments about them that they are struggling to deal with themselves. So if they are struggling to deal with themselves, throw in another person into that relationship who's also not happy with that, of course, that relationship won't survive. Now you're wondering, Swaminatha, isn't your job to try and talk about the fallacy of relationships? What are you talking about today? You got out of the wrong side of the bed or something? No, that's not what I mean. I mean, in a relationship or out of a relationship, you must be happy. And because of you, people around you must also be happy. If that's not working out, then whether you're in a relationship or out of a relationship, you've still not grasped the truths that the Buddha wanted to teach you. So this is just a tip, a bonus for coming in on this wet morning. If in your relationships, whatever that relationship might be, employer, employee, husband, wife, parents, children, friends, whatever the relationship might be, if it's getting a bit shaky, if you're feeling that it's not what it used to be, and you're not happy about something, stop for a moment and ask yourself, are there things that I'm not prepared to accept about the other person? What about them am I not prepared to accept? What about them am I trying to change? Not about me, but about them. If you can make a list of the things that you are struggling to accept and then work out a way to be more accepting of them, that happens where? That happens in you. No sooner than you do it, you will realize that things will start getting better from there on. Try it if you don't believe me, and then you will see it for yourself. The universal truth is, ladies and gentlemen, everyone with a sense of self, okay, universally, every human being with a sense of self is struggling for acceptance. That's what they want. Please accept me. Please accept me. This is what I come. This is how I come. This is how I am. Please accept me. Who are friends? Now give me a new definition of who friends are. People who accept. Who's the best friend? Who does it best? Of course, you will have friends who will point out what's wrong with you, right? But they have still accepted you. Having accepted you, now they're helping you to come out of some of your bad behaviors, bad habits. But they have nonetheless accepted you. That's what I mean. Life feels like hell when you don't have a friend, right? That's when you say lonely. So when do people feel lonely? I mean, they're there. What more do you need? If I am here, what more do I need? Why do I feel lonely? What is the remedy for loneliness? Forget the Dhamma for a second. What is the remedy for loneliness? Acceptance. People feel lonely when they don't feel accepted. So, whenever you give acceptance to a man, woman, whoever, a man, that's just a general term. Whenever you give acceptance to a man, there he will find home. That's why they say home is where the heart is. What that really means is, where I am accepted for who I am, that is where my home is. And that's why when someone gets into a relationship, when they start coming of age, teenagers, we've all gone through this, we have had this experience, right? You find someone that you're attracted to, and then now you want to start a family of your own, right? So why do you want to leave home and go and be with them? Why do you think? I mean, your parents have looked after you until you were 18, 19, 20. Now you say you're 22. And now you've gone out looking for a partner, you've found someone, now you want to start a family with them. Why? What's wrong with your own folks? They're okay, but I have found someone who what? Accepts me even more than my mother and my father do. At least that's what you think. That's why it's very difficult to break such relationships, even for parents who've been, who consider their children to be the apple of their eye. Still, it's very difficult to break such relationships because they feel more accepted with the other person. That's why sometimes children get into inappropriate relationships. They get into affairs that you don't condone, and you later find out. And now in some countries, caste is a huge thing. It's part of the social fabric. India, take it for example. Right? So the first thing you'll have to convince your parents is that they're of the right caste. But just imagine if, say, a Brahmin girl falls in love with a man who's of a lower caste. Why did they overlook the caste? What did they feel? This is a woman who'd grown up in that culture, in that environment at home and studied the whole caste thing altogether. But then they found a man. She found a man who what's her? Who accepts her. Now she finds heart there. So she finds home there. Now she wants to be with him. That's the thing. So every mind that experiences a sense of self is looking for acceptance. It's happening inside you as well right now. And all the time. Every time you feel a sense of self, you're looking for acceptance. So as you know it's happening with you, you need to understand it's happening with other people as well. So if you want to give a little bit of joy and happiness, love and affection to the people who you live with, then accept them. Anytime a relationship is going south, it's not working out, stop for a moment and rather than pointing your finger at them, ask yourself, what is it about them that I struggle to accept? Work that list out and try and work through them one at a time. Take your time. If it takes you 3 months, 6 months, a year to work through them. In my lay life, one of the things I used to give my other half as a gift for her birthday was I'd ask her, name 3 things you would like me to change about myself. That's what she got as a gift for her birthday. It meant more to her than any gift I could give her. It meant more to her than any gift I could give her. The willingness that I had to change something about myself so that she felt more accepted. Now, I didn't know I didn't know anything about jati or how all of this was working. If I did, I wouldn't get married. Right? So none of this, this is all in hindsight. But now I know why that worked. I must have read it in a book or picked it up from some, relationship book or something. I was an avid reader of personal development and things like that. So I must have picked it up from one of those books that I read at the time. But now I know why it worked. So that was the best gift that I could give her. This is something you can do with your loved ones as well. Ask them, would you rather a diamond necklace? Husbands, ask your wives when you get back home today, for your next birthday, would you rather a diamond necklace? Or name 3 things about me that you would like me to change. And I promise you I will work on them and you can help me, let's work together and I will try and change them about me. Which one will she go for? The diamond? I'm not going to be getting any arms today. No, but today is the first Sunday of the week. So no arms anyway. Today is a good day to be saying whatever's in my mind. I can say whatever I like today. Other days I have to be very careful. No, but on a serious note though, this is a wonderful gift to give anyone. It is. Try it out. If you can't work on 3 things, ask for one thing. Name the one thing you'd like me to change about myself. And give me a year from now to try and work on it. Within the next year, before your next birthday, I promise you, I will make every effort. I will strive, and please, you help me. This is not something I can do alone, but please, you help me to change myself in that way so that you feel more accepted. They will love you for it. Because ultimately that is what love is. Sorry, I had to throw it in there as well. They will feel more at home. If you can give that gift, ladies and gentlemen, they will never betray you. They'll never betray you. I mean, this is the stuff that all relationships are based on. This is the foundation of all relationships. People get into relationships because they want to feel accepted. No other reason. What relationships is an arahant in? They have acquaintances. They know each other. They get along with each other. But they don't have relationships in the way that you experience relationships. Not in that way. It's not an affair of the heart for them. It's an affair of the mind. That doesn't mean they are heartless. Oh no. They're the most compassionate beings alive. But not in a foolish way, but in a very wise way. So I suggest, try it. For a child, that would be one of the best gifts they can give their mother or father for their birthday. Amma, tell me one thing you'd like me to change about myself, and I will work on that, I promise you. Right? And write it down. Right? I asked my mother, and she said this, from here on till the end, till her next birthday, I will strive to work on that and improve myself for the better. And you hand it over to her, saying, this is my promise to you. I take this solemn oath. And then from time to time she will remind you, hey, we promise. But at least the fact that they're willing to change. People are very unwilling to change. That's why. They will change if they feel there is something in it for them. Not otherwise. And that's not because they're bad or terrible, not because they're evil, because that's their self that's overriding their good judgment. Once you have a sense of self, ladies and gentlemen, all common sense is out the window. That's why when you know you shouldn't be doing something, you still go and do it. And then later on, regret. Otherwise, why should there be repentance? Why should there be regrets? When you know you shouldn't be doing it, but you do it nonetheless. You open the fridge, you know you shouldn't be eating that, but you munch it down anyway. You know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you engage in risky behavior. I don't need to spell it out to you. You do it nonetheless, because it's your mind has now been overridden by jati, a sense of self. And a sense of self does not work to your advantage. Please remember that. Your sense of self does not work to your advantage. It works to its own advantage. You are not yourself. That's the thing. Your best friend is the Buddha, not yourself. In other words, yourself is your worst enemy. Shall we precept? Giving you something to think about? Before we start getting into the nitty-gritty of the Dhamma? I have something I want to talk to you about today. Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. But I want to remind you that all that is a means to an end. And that end is for you to feel that you have become a better human being. And for the people around you to really and genuinely feel that you are a blessing to be around. If that's happening, let's talk about Anicca, Dukkha and Anatta. If you're simply becoming more educated, more learned, you know the Dhamma now, you can play with the Dhamma because you're so proficient with it. That's not what we're here for. It's not what we're here for. Right. Let's bring our palms together then. In veneration of the Supremely Enlightened One, the Perfect One, the Magnificent One, He who is our teacher, our master and our guide, reminding ourselves of the painstaking endeavors that He put Himself through to pave the path for our salvation. As we bring our palms together, let us also remind ourselves that this is a pledge of allegiance that we take to continue and strive on our journey to our own liberation and to remain faithful to the Dhamma, the truth. So with that in mind, let us chant the Namaskara and take refuge in the Noble Triple Gem, observe the precepts and continue with today's proceedings. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Can I take 5 minutes to read something to you? I have a feeling that some of you may have already laid their eyes on this, and some have maybe even got together to produce this. But whether you have or you haven't, I think there's a very beautiful message in these words and in these passages, and I want you to hear them and rejoice in them. I think it encapsulates everything that I've been trying to say so far. Gateway to Nibbāna, a living Dhamma experience offered with loving intention. In the serene halls of Gateway College, Colombo, a remarkable Dhamma journey has quietly blossomed. Every Sunday, a diverse group of devotees, young and old, newcomers and seasoned practitioners, gather not just to listen to sermons, but to take part in a living, breathing expression of the Buddha's teachings. Gateway to Nibbāna, a series of Dhamma sermons guided by the spiritual leadership of venerable monks from the Jetavana Buddhist monastery in Giriya, is a step-by-step practical guide to achieve the ultimate bliss of Nibbāna. The weekly sermons conducted in English by the monks of the monastery are offered with unwavering commitment and gentle humility. The Dhamma is delivered in a manner that is refined in its simplicity and deeply profound, bridging timeless truths with the realities of everyday life. Agreed so far? Their words carry not only wisdom but warmth, and their radiant smile and tender tone reflect a kindness that touches every listener. Amidst natural calamities and even during periods of illness, the monks ensure their presence at every sermon, a heartfelt reflection of their steadfast dedication to this noble purpose and to the spiritual well-being of the devotees. Week after week, their presence brings a sense of calm, clarity, and closeness to the teachings of the Buddha, making the Dhamma feel accessible and alive. Agreed so far? Good. Gateway to Nibbāna would not have been possible without the generosity and gracious support of the chairman and officials of Gateway College. With sincere understanding of the spiritual value this program brings, they have opened the doors of the college's main hall, along with all its amenities, free of charge for the sermons. Their quiet yet profound contribution has provided a dignified setting where the teachings of the Buddha can be shared, reflected upon, and lived. It is a gesture that continues to benefit hundreds of lives each week, creating conditions for spiritual growth, community, and boundless merit. Beautiful, isn't it? At the heart of Gateway to Nibbāna stands a devoted couple whose quiet leadership and boundless compassion have been the foundation of this spiritual journey. So, all of the couples here, they're talking about you. Without ever seeking recognition, they have taken on multiple responsibilities, organizing the sermons, preparing offerings for the Mahasangha, ensuring the comfort of all participants, and guiding newcomers with warmth and humility. Their hands are always joined in greeting, their words gentle and encouraging. Their presence is felt in every corner of the program, not through authority, but through loving service. Agreed? Okay. Long before the first devotee arrives, another devoted couple is already at work, gathering fresh flowers, constructing intricate backdrops, and transforming the Dhamma hall into a space of sacred beauty. Every week, the decorations are thoughtfully designed, and the couple's creativity, devotion, and attention to detail elevate the environment into one that deeply touches the hearts of all who enter the halls. In this spirit of inclusivity and collective merit-making, offerings from devotees such as floral arrangements, ornaments, and paintings, so talking about all of your contribution here, are often thoughtfully incorporated into the decor. On one particularly touching occasion, flowers lovingly made by children at the cancer hospital were also used, giving them the opportunity to participate in this meritorious act and share in the blessings that it brings. How beautiful. See, mending minds and healing hearts. Even people who don't get to come and listen to the sermons, they're also part of this. Little by little, they get closer and closer to where you are, so that you can get closer and closer to where I am. And then we can get closer and closer to where the Buddha is today. Let me continue. Among the many silent contributors to Gateway to Nibbāna are individuals whose acts of devotion quietly uphold the spirit of the Dhamma each week. One such devoted lady brings beautiful flower arrangements for the venerable monks to offer to the Lord Buddha at the start of every sermon. Her immense reverence for the Mahasangha ensured the arrangements continued uninterrupted even during a period spent abroad, fulfilling her offering with the same care from afar. You're all like this. This is but one example of one of you. If one of you is like this, then you're all like this. Inside the sermon hall, another compassionate lady. Where are the men? It's all ladies. Oh yes, holding out Mutukuru. Inside the sermon hall, another compassionate lady dedicates herself to welcoming new attendees with warmth and care. She gently guides them, notes down their details to help them stay connected, and ensures they feel embraced from their very first visit. She also makes an immense effort to ensure that devotees are connected to the programs at the monastery, further enabling and supporting their spiritual journey. Now we get to the part I love the most. At the core of this journey is noble friendship. Kalyana Mitra. The organizers and devotees support each other with unwavering love and commitment. It's actually this part that made me want to read this out to you all. Newcomers, foreign devotees, and individuals from other religious backgrounds are warmly welcomed and respectfully included. Sadhu sadhu. They are given meaningful opportunities to participate, whether by offering flowers, assisting in rituals, or simply being part of the preparations, thereby ensuring that everyone becomes an active and valued part in this path to Nibbāna. In the true spirit of the Dhamma, conventional differences fade away. Music to my ears. Here, no one is defined by religion, status, or origin, but simply seen as a mind striving for liberation, walking together with compassion and unity. At Gateway to Nibbāna, it is often the smallest acts that quietly build into something profoundly meaningful. With heartfelt dedication, a group of devotees clean and prepare the Dhamma hall, along with other spaces to be used by the venerable monks and fellow devotees, take notes during sermons to share with others. I didn't know you did that. How dare you without my permission? Pass on recorded sermons to those unable to attend and lovingly invite friends and family to experience the profound Dhamma together. Devotees graciously share their pirikara offerings with others, embodying a spirit of selflessness and devotion, and do not hesitate to step in silently to offer a helping hand wherever needed. These thoughtful gestures, carried out without expectation or recognition, weave a fabric of spiritual companionship that sustains the entire community. Each action, though seemingly small, becomes a thread in a greater offering, one made not just to the Buddha, but to one another. Each Sunday brings new stories of profound selflessness, like the devoted lady who, moved by the grace of the venerable monks, offered her personal vehicle for their use. Her quiet yet powerful gesture did not go unnoticed. It became a source of inspiration, especially to the younger devotees. Witnessing this act of generosity, a young boy brought a handmade replica of a car as an offering, expressing his heartfelt wish to one day make a similar contribution to the Buddha Sasana. See, these things don't expire, do they? We could talk about this for eons and still rejoice with the same joy that we did on the day that the merit was done. That's the beauty of merit. In a similar spirit, a young girl meticulously crafted a model aircraft with the sincere hope that she may one day fly the Swamin Wahanse across the world, enabling him to spread the Dhamma and bring an end to the ongoing wars through his compassionate teaching. These pure-hearted offerings, born out of genuine reverence and a desire to serve, is proof of how the Dhamma can plant seeds of compassion and spiritual aspiration in the next generation. For many parents, attending Gateway to Nibbāna, the journey is not only personal, it is also a conscious effort to guide their children towards the Dhamma. A dedicated children's Dhamma class is conducted simultaneously by a venerable monk who imparts the essence of the Buddha's teaching in simple, relatable ways. This space allows young minds to grow with the Dhamma from an early age, giving families a rare and meaningful opportunity to walk the path together. See, if that part didn't happen, it would be very difficult for you to work and do this all together as one family. Perhaps the mother and father are here, but if your children were not attuned to what you are doing, if they couldn't synchronize with you, then at home it would still be hell, although here it would be heaven. So that's what's happening in the other side, on the other whole. One of the most revered moments at Gateway to Nibbāna is the Pindapata, arms round, where the venerable monks with utmost compassion and humility accept the offerings brought by the devotees. For many, this is a rare and precious opportunity to engage directly in an ancient tradition upheld since the time of the Buddha. Devotees with deep reverence prepare alms with care and joy, often bringing extra with the thought that there may be someone who may not have brought offerings. No wonder they taste so good. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That's the best offering you could give. The gift of sharing and caring about each other. It is a touching and familiar sight to see someone willingly share or even give up their own alms just to ensure another has a chance to engage in this meritorious act. This profound offering to the Mahasangha brings everyone one step closer on the path to Nibbāna. Gateway to Nibbāna is a tale of countless acts of merit. Together, the community decorates, cooks, cleans, and spreads the Dhamma. Some, often for the first time in their lives. People don't just listen to the Dhamma, they embody it. More than just a program, it is a haven of compassion, a school of virtue, and a spiritual family where defilements are defeated not with weapons, but with patience, generosity, and mindfulness. As the shoots of merit grow under the light of wisdom, they promise to one day become the great trees that offer shade to the whole world. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. What a pirikara that was. These are the gifts for the efforts that the Mahasangha makes, ladies and gentlemen. You could bring a whole shop of robes and lay it down here and say, Swami Mahasa, I've brought all the robes that were in the shop and these are for you. Not in my whole lifetime could I wear all of them. One of these lasts me about 2 or 3 years sometimes. But that's not the pirikara I want. It's who you have become, ladies and gentlemen. It's who you have become. It's the beautiful person that you have become today. This may be one person's thoughts, it may be a group of you who have compiled together, but it is whoever who has written this, it is something that they have felt. That's why I say the proof is in the audience. This Dhamma works, and we know it. Those days I used to say, this Dhamma works, and I know it. When we first met, now I don't need to say that. This Dhamma works, and we know it. Sadhu, sadhu. This seat will never be empty. Someone will always occupy this seat. For that to happen, you must look after each other. Where there is unity, we have a message to share. Where there is no unity, this message has no place. It won't bear. You are the fertile ground on which a good farmer may come and plant his seed. But that fertile ground you create together. That's why coming to Rajagiriya has never felt like a hassle. The rain can't stop us. The snow can't stop us because there's no storm. No snow. The sun can't stop us. Elections can sometimes. But it's worth it. Don't you think so? That's the thing. So, just as much as you care about Swami Wahanse, care about each other. Because it is you that make this happen. It's you that make this happen. So, long may this happen for the benefit of all mankind. Remember, these sermons not just end in between your ears. It reaches the far corners of the globe. You'd be surprised from where some people actually send us messages and emails saying, can I also come and join those sermons? Some countries I haven't even heard of. I mean, countries I hadn't even heard of. But the monastery is slowly beginning to appear on the global map because of what we're doing together. Guru Handra will be the first to say, it's not me. So that's how he puts it. How can I put it anywhere else? The Sangha is what upholds the Sasana. The Sangha. Bhikkhu Bhikkhuni, Upasaka, Upasaka. All four are the pillars that upholds the Sasana. So for as long as this devotion lives afresh in your hearts and minds, ladies and gentlemen, the Sasana will prevail. And we can continue to do this Sasana service. If it weren't for you and the enthusiasm with which you connect and join here, these sermons wouldn't be so rich. They wouldn't be, I promise you, they wouldn't be so rich. They wouldn't be so thought-provoking. They wouldn't reach the other side of the world. At least here you get to see the Swami Wahanse, you understand the culture of what being a Buddhist is about, right? Maybe there may be one or two individuals here who come here because, out of respect and because it's Buddhist. It's a very Buddhist thing to do, to go and listen to a sermon. But on the other side of the globe, it's not so. In some places where our Swami Wahanses travel to preach the Dhamma, they don't even recognize monks. Some of the questions that they get asked is, what are you dressed in? On one occasion, would you believe me, I don't know whether this was to harass or whatever, but it's difficult to think how anyone in that sort of position may not know, but we always give people the benefit of the doubt, right? So on one occasion, our Swami Wahanses were about to board an aircraft, and the staff had said, unless you get out of that, whatever it is you're dressed in, and get into something regular, something usual, we're not going to let you board the flight. And I don't think they were kidding. So, I don't think they meant it out of disrespect, or I don't think they were trying to discriminate. I think they genuinely did not know what we were. Why is someone dressed in a cloak like this? What have they got hiding inside it? I wouldn't be surprised if one of these days they say, right, open and show me what you've got around you. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, this is a perfect hiding place. You can hide all sorts in here. I hide the Four Noble Truths in here. So that has happened on one occasion. The monk came back and very, very, very jovially he related it to me. Swami, you won't believe what happened at the airport. They were not allowed to board. And then they had to make a few calls and get someone who actually knew what a monk is and what the robe is, and then they were permitted. Before you ask me, so what did they do, Swami? Did they have to find a pair of trousers? No, thankfully not. But then, there are other occasions where, for I'm sure health and safety and practical reasons, our Swami Wahanses are required to wear footwear. Very understandable. Very understandable. So that they don't violate any health and safety regulations. It's very understandable. Some airports they do, other airports they don't. Some aircraft they require that you wear footwear before you board. Others don't. Maybe in the case of an emergency and the flight has to take a a sudden landing, then maybe if you didn't have any footwear on, it becomes very difficult for people to take the escape routes. Maybe, but I've never stopped to ask why. You just conform, that's all, right? What was the thing we talked about just a moment ago? Acceptance. Besides, they're trying to provide a service to us. Why make their life difficult? By trying to be difficult. There's this little mantra that I always bear with me. Whenever you want someone to help you, remember this. Help them to help you. Always works. Whenever you need someone's help, approach them with the thought that they want to help you. They want to help you. But they may need your help to help you. So if ever you're in a situation where you need someone's help and it's not very forthcoming, perhaps you need to do a little bit more to help them to help you. Help them do their jobs. And their job is to help you. So ultimately you're helping yourself. I've always carried that with me, and it's worked so many times. You don't have to do it just because you want someone's help, but in situations where you feel that help is not very forthcoming, you can help them. Because people have all sorts of problems that they have to deal with. You know the drill, right? I don't need to spell it out to you. That's why you should always take every opportunity to congratulate, to felicitate someone for a good service. When someone does a good service, if you see, this was a habit that I used to have whenever I used to travel, and traveling was something I used to do quite a lot. If ever I saw a member of the cabin crew with a smile on their face, whether that was in my aisle or another, I would always write a little note and say, I'm very impressed by the service with a smile. And members of staff like this are an asset to any organization. So I hand that over to them. Sometimes they probably read it on the way back to the quarters. But, as they read it, what do you think they resolve to do from there on? Frown at all their passengers? No. See, their smile has been appreciated. What do you think they're going to do more of? Smile. So have I not helped everyone in the aircraft by doing that? So now they're going to keep on smiling with every passenger, not just with me, because they know that their smile has been appreciated. Sometimes that's all they need. It cheers them up, and from there on, they're happy and they can do a proper service. So, as he says here, it's the little things, the small things that count. They make such a profound effect. You don't have to spend hundreds of thousands and millions to make a change in the world, ladies and gentlemen. Small actions, little things. You don't need big money, you need a big heart. That's what you need. To be happy, you don't need a big house. You need a big heart. The bigger yourself, the smaller your heart. The less you have a sense of self, the bigger your heart is. Because you know what self does? It shrinks your heart. It swallows your heart. It reduces its capacity to bear. It folds on to itself. And it shrinks. And it withers. That's what self does. So that's why we need to try and work our way out of self. So that's what the next part of this sermon is going to be about. And we have about half an hour. So first of all, I want to make a quick remark, give you a quick reminder of what we talked a couple of weeks ago. Because one sermon is not going to be enough to get the message across. So I brought with me some building blocks, and I'm going to try and use that to explain the same concepts we talked about the other day, but that day we used colored water. So I can't be playing with colored water every day, then people will think that this is something else. When they start seeing YouTube shorts and Swaminathan holding wine glasses in every sermon, that becomes a problem then, right? Once in a while it's okay. Right. So here's the thing. The principles that I want to get across to you are these three characteristics. The three characteristics which are universal, and they're the characteristics that are common to all things that exist in this world. So much so that if something exists in this world, ladies and gentlemen, then it is the three characteristics that they demonstrate. If the three characteristics did not exist, then this world wouldn't exist. Quite simply. That is how fundamental these three characteristics are. The first of which is anicca. So I proposed the other day a term that we can use for this is chaos. Now, when I say the word chaos, it may mean a lot of things to a lot of you. So it's important we try and clearly understand in what sense this word anicca represents chaos. So sometimes you might have to redefine some of these terms for the purpose of these discussions, right? Maybe outside here you use the word chaos in another way, but here for the purpose of understanding, I want you to understand it in a particular way. So let's take this, move this out of the way. Am I on the screen? Okay. What do you see on this dish? You'll say blocks, bricks, right? But don't you also see chaos? Don't you see chaos? Why do you say you see chaos? Because you don't see something else. That's why you say you see chaos. The opposite of which is order. True. Because you see no order, you say there is chaos here. So chaos does not mean jumping around here and there and trying to pack it all and bring it all and get it to settle. That's not what chaos means. Okay? So chaos means simply, to put it quite simply, void of order. These bricks are void of order. Having said that though, let's fast forward time another 30 minutes. Now, in between now and the next 30 minutes, you can presume that I'm going to be building a few structures with these bricks, right? But at the end of this sermon, what do you think we're going to do with those structures? We're going to dismantle them and then put them back into this form. Let's take ourselves forward in time another half an hour. And we are back here, aren't we? You understand what I'm saying? We are here now. But between now and the next half an hour, various things will happen with these blocks. We'll be making structures out of them. But at the end of that period, it'll all be back here in this fashion. At the end of this sermon, would you say this is chaos or order? Have a think. You see, this is easier to pack. Now, imagine if I had a structure made out of all this, say I had a pyramid, for instance. That's going to be difficult to pack. Because I want to carry it in a bag. And that bag, I might want to just, shove it somewhere, maybe under a seat or something. Right? It'll be easy if it didn't have a rigid structure. So I would purposefully put it back into this state. It will be done deliberately. So maybe an Anagarika Mata or one of you might come and undo the structures and put it all back into this state. At that point, what would you say this is? Again, chaos or order? You could say this is chaos because it's chaos now, but can't you see that there is also an order Because it's the order that you need for it to be carried somewhere. Otherwise it would be too cumbersome if it was in a structure. Right now this is chaos because we want to do something with this, and actually in your mind you know that structures are going to be made out of this. But then once the structure is made and now it's time for me to leave the hall, then that structure becomes chaos. Because you can't take it in that way. Now you want to, or we would want to, what shall we say? Dismantle it, yeah, and put it back into this, so that we can carry this back with us. What does that tell you about order? Perceived, yes. Order comes with necessity. Take away necessity, there is no room for order. See, that's why the word order is both a noun and a verb, isn't it? What shall we? At the restaurant? What shall we? Order. So what does the chef do in the kitchen? You know what he does? He puts order to chaos. He puts order to chaos. Because in the state that the vegetables are in, the state that the rice is in, maybe the state that the other condiments and various other things are in, you cannot serve that to a customer. So he has to put order to chaos based off an order. That's why it's called an order. That's why the verb order is order. Why? Because it is an order, an instruction to do what? To put order to chaos. That's why it's called an order. Now say in the army, right? Or you have some soldiers. The sergeant or the commander might give orders. So say they're walking around here and there, and then the commander might shout out an order. Attention! What was that? That's an order. So what do the soldiers do then? What do they say? Sword you. And then what, they carry on? What do? They stop whatever they were doing, and then now they conform. They get in line. They follow the order. In other words, they put order to chaos. So now, the salient point here, ladies and gentlemen, is this. You cannot have order unless there is an order. There has to be an intention. There has to be a necessity. Without necessity, this is fine as well, isn't it? This is fine as well. But you know, in a short while, we'll be putting structure into this. Now, let's say I asked you to give me an order. What would you like for me to do with these? You might call out different things. So I'm going to ask, can you make a house out of it? Right? That's your order. So I'll try and make a house out of it. So what do I do when I do that? I try and put order to chaos. But when it's time to leave, what do? Do we put it back to chaos? No, now that order is no longer a good order. Now we have to bring it back to this order, because this is what should be ordered for us to take this with us. Does that make sense to all of you? If that didn't make sense, please give me a show of hands and I'll go through it again. Yes, okay, right. Just one person's enough, then we'll do it one more time. So right, let me make something out of this. Give me an order. The one time that you're going to give an order to Swaminathan. What do you want? Huh? A tower. Okay, try and do a tower. I think you're being very kind to me. Anything else and I would have struggled. That enough? One more? What are the things I do to keep you happy? Right, that'll do. There you go. Right, there's your towel. These pieces were in here before, and they were chaotic. They were chaotic because you saw no order to them. In fact, it was okay until in your mind you wanted the towel. Until in your mind you wanted to see a tower manifest. It was fine the way it was. But the moment you had the necessity to see a tower, now you say, this is chaos. So which came first? Necessity came first. Out of that necessity was born a requirement to structure stuff that's in chaos to a particular order. So now this is an order. Okay, so now it's time for us to leave. No, I mean, not literally, but play with me here, right? So now it's time for us to leave, and then I can't, see, it's going to be difficult for me to pack this. The moment I give this hand over to my Anagarika Mahatma, what's he going to do? He says, Swaminatha, we can't go like that. It won't fit in the bag. What's he going to do? He's going to dismantle this structure because in his mind, he now has a different order. That order does not conform with this. This clashes with that order. So what is he going to have to do now? Chaos or order? Chaos or order? Order, of course. Now he's going to put it into the order that he wants it to be in. See? So now it gets put back into the order that he wants it to be in. If, in the audience, as you asked for that tower, if you still wanted that, now you would say that the Anagarika Mahatma was doing what? Putting it into chaos. But in his mind, he would be putting it into order. So now then, do you understand that chaos and order, these two principles, are subjective. Characteristically, these paths have no agenda inherently. These paths have no agenda. That's why at any point you like, you can put structure. In other words, you can arrange them. They're not going to resist. See, I can put it up here, I can put it down here. They won't resist. And that's because they have no preset agendas or intentions. That's because, ladies and gentlemen, they are characteristically chaotic. Meaning, they are always willing. Okay? I know this is not something they do intently because they're inanimate objects. They cannot take intent. But you know that they are characteristically chaotic. In other words, they are always willing to be put into any kind of order, yes, and to be rearranged into any other kind of order, so it doesn't matter to them which order you structure them to. Even when you have fitted into this object, like this structure, now these three parts, they have been structured in a particular order, haven't they? You could say that this is the top part, this is the middle part, and this is the bottom part. Yes? Even while they are in this structure. So I want you all to pay attention now, right? even while they're in this structure, each of these parts individually still, even as we speak, even as they're contributing and taking part in this structure, still they have no intention to be part of this object, this structure. It's still not written in their DNA that they have to be the bottom part. This does not demand that it has to be the top part, even when it's still the top part. There's no demand here. There's no agenda here. There's no pre-requirement here. There's no requisite here. Make sense to everyone? That's why at any point they are always willing to go into a different order, because they don't even know what order they're in at the moment. To be honest, they don't even know that they are in any order for that matter. So, then by their very nature, actually, they're all chaotic. That nature of not having a preset agenda, not having a desire or an intent to be in a certain way, to be in a certain place at a certain time, not having an intent to be part of something or not to be part of something, to be void of such kind of agenda, is the chaotic nature of this object. You can't take that nature out of this object. See if you can make sense of that. It's a bit like weight. Let's forget for a second that there's a difference between mass and weight. Okay, let's assume that all objects have weight, because weight is a function of gravity. But let's forget that for a second and assume that all objects have weight. Okay, so can you take weight out of this object? What if you place it up here? Does it no longer have weight? What if it's down here? Does it no longer have weight? No, there's nothing you can do to this object to take away the characteristic of its weight, is there? There's nothing you could do to this object. For as long as this object exists, its weight exists. Make sense? Okay. In the same way, the chaotic nature of this object, you cannot take it out of this. It's part and parcel of any object, ladies and gentlemen. Because it is its chaotic nature that enables us to put it anywhere we like. And actually not even participate it in our activity. Now, did that part make sense to you? Put your hand up again if that didn't make sense. Wonderful. What a great audience. You think that's easy to understand? It's not. That's not easy to understand. That is your merits that's helping you make sense of these things in the first, second, third attempt. If you're beginning to understand these things, don't thank me, thank your merits for that. Because there are sometimes individuals, we've tried to explain 100 times and they still don't get it. No, don't get it. So what do? We encourage them to earn more merit. That's what we do. I say, ping and kusal. These are the two things that one needs in the sasana. Right. So then that is the chaotic nature. It's an intrinsic characteristic of any object that is in existence. It is chaotic by nature, meaning it has no preset agenda. It does not require or demand to be anywhere at any time in any structure. You can either take it or leave it. It doesn't care. No complaints. No praises either. Oh, thank you so much. No. Why didn't you? No. You don't get that. You get that from people you know, but you don't get that from this. So then you must begin to wonder why you get that from people you know. And why you don't get that from this. So you say, Swamina, this is an inanimate object, it doesn't have a mind, that's why it doesn't. No, not because of that. you don't get complaints from an arahant either. Or at least someone who has understood and comprehended Dhamma. They don't complain about you not participating them in your, or inviting them to your party. They don't complain about you not inviting them to your party. But you know people who would. So when you prepare your Christmas list, we don't do Christmas much here. Vesak? You don't have Vesak parties, do you? New Year's, let's say New Year's party. There are certain names that you have to invite. If you didn't, what would happen? Chaos. That's chaos in another sense. Yes, that's chaos in another sense. But what you mean by chaos is the whole thing would fall apart. We wouldn't be friends anymore. They wouldn't get along with us anymore. They wouldn't be friends of the family anymore. They wouldn't talk to me anymore. See, why do you call that chaos? They wouldn't talk to me anymore. They wouldn't see eye to eye with me anymore. Why do you call that chaos? Because the other is order. The opposite of that is order. How so? Because you put in work, effort, time to build up that relationship to a point where you now see eye to eye, and now you are friends, and you now have that good relationship going between the two of you, right? That required effort on your part. So if you don't invite them to your party, what's going to happen? It's going to hurt them, and it's going to change the whole situation, and all that effort that you'd put in to build those bonds, to build that relationship up to that point, is going to be lost. And then it'll be reset, and you'll have to go back to them, apologize 1,000 times over, and then take some food and take them shopping or whatever, and then try and get them back into your good books, or get back into their good books. See, that's why you call it chaos. But then if there's someone that you really didn't like, but they kept visiting you, unwelcome guests, don't you have a fair share of them? Why are you pretending like you don't? Unwelcome guests, you really don't want them to visit you, but they do. You really don't want them to call you, but they do. How many times can you keep ignoring those phone calls after which you have to answer? And then you block their number, but then they try ringing you with another number, and then it rings and you answer, hey. Got you red-handed. See, then, for you, that is chaos. The fact that they want to be with you, but you don't want them. So if they were to stop talking to you and end that relationship, for you, that would be order. So, in a nutshell then, this order and chaos business, it's all subjective. It all depends on what your necessity is. So much so that without necessity, there would not be any order in this world. There would not be any order in this world. So it is your necessity then, ladies and gentlemen, that has put structure into the whole universe. This whole cosmos is the way it is because of your necessity. Not you individually, you can't take all the credit for that. It's the collective necessity. Of whose? Whose necessity? Mind's. This is the collective necessity of all the minds there are in existence. Because it is only a mind that can have a what? A necessity. Nothing else can take on a necessity. Do you think this object has a necessity? Do you think this object wants to be in my fingers right now, between my fingers? No. In fact, if I drop it, is it going to cry, please take me back up? No. Is it going to complain, hey, can you put me down, please? Enough already? No, none of that. So they don't have a necessity. But If I had a butterfly, after a while it's going to fly away. And then if I try running after it to catch it, then what would happen? First you would ask me, Swaminatha, is that why you're a Swaminatha? Stop running after butterflies. But then you'd say it's a useless thing to do because it's a butterfly, it has necessities. So whilst it needs food, it'll travel, it'll fly, it'll go places. If it feels comfortable on your palm, it'll come and land there. Now when a butterfly, if it even accidentally lands on you or someone, you feel like you're special, don't you? I know. There are these silly feelings that people get. If a butterfly comes and lands on you, then you get this feeling like, I must be so gentle. I must be so kind and so compassionate, that's why these butterflies come and land on me. If the butterfly knew what was going through your mind, not even a butterfly would come and land on you. It doesn't know what you want and whether you're kind or you're gentle or whatever. It just had a necessity to land on you, and that's why it landed on you. Maybe it was just tired of flying, and the first object that it could find was your shoulder, so it landed there. Not because you are special in some way, but hey, Jati always hijacks. Jati always hijacks. That's why if you walk up to a park or something and, say a stray deer walks up to you. Now because you think deer are harmless animals, when a deer walks up to you, immediately you think that, well, I'm also harmless. That's why a deer walks up to me. Oh, come on. But that's how we associate. A deer is harmless. A butterfly is harmless. So anything a butterfly lands on must also be harmless. Your mind is very good at associating things like that. I could give you a whole lecture on just associations and how your mind is fooled by such things. But we'll talk about that another day. There's a lot we can talk about sensuality and how in your mind you associate certain things with lust. And because of that you think that lust comes from certain things. It's all wired in your... It's not wired, you've programmed your mind in that way. Indoctrinations have programmed our minds in that way. But hey, that's for another day. So, chaos and order. At least if we can get that across, I can continue this conversation next week. So, do you understand what chaos and order are then? Is chaos something I can take out of, or the characteristic of chaos, can I take it out of this object? Can I? No. It's an inherent characteristic of this object or any object. Any object. It is the fact that it has no agenda, it has no requirement or demand to be in a particular order. That's what the characteristic of chaos is. As that characteristic exists, now we can put order. We can bring order into this world thanks to the characteristic of chaos. Now that's the other point I want to leave you with today before we conclude. Let me explain that. If the characteristic of chaos did not exist, you would not be able to put order, or you would not be able to bring order into this world. Why is that? See, ladies and gentlemen, take this structure for instance. Hold on. Keep it simple, right? You have the red piece on top and the blue piece at the bottom, right? These two pieces individually are characteristically chaotic. They have the nature of chaos almost written on them. So into them, if you like. It's part of what they are. Okay? It is because they are naturally and characteristically chaotic You can put them in any order you like. Just imagine if this piece had a preference and it always wanted to be the top piece. I'll tell you one thing for sure, you would never be able to do this. It's almost like if you had similar poles of a magnet and you try to bring them together. If you try and bring north and north together, what do? They repel, right? So for two magnets to stick, you have to have opposite poles facing each other. Right? We all have that experience. In the same way, if these two pieces did not have the nature of chaos, intrinsically, you would not be able to do whatever you like in the way that you do it. I'm doing it right now. It is because they are inherently and characteristically chaotic. In other words, anicca. Iccha, as I explained to you the other day, is preference. Iccha is expectation, preference, desire, the want to be in a certain way. That's what iccha is. That's why the Sinhalese word for disappointment, mentioned this to you the other day, is what? Iccha bhanga. To bhanga is what? To destroy. Iccha bhanga is the destruction of an expectation. So, the word anicca leverages that meaning. Anicca, not iccha. Anicca. So if iccha is to have a preference, is to have a preset order, then anicca is to not be so. In other words, to be chaotic by nature. Because it is chaotic by nature, you can put it in any way you like. And for as long as there's a force keeping it there, there's a necessity that's keeping it there, it will be there. Here, there are two forces acting. One is gravity, the other is friction. These are the two forces that are acting on this object. Because of these two forces, these objects are in this structure. Now, if you took away gravity and friction, what would happen? And I turn this upside down. Nothing would happen. If I took away gravity and friction, nothing would happen. But if I took away just friction, what would happen? Then this piece would fall. That's because this piece has no preference, no intrinsic, no inherent preference to be attached to this other piece in this way, because it's chaotic by nature. Okay? So if something's chaotic by nature, for two things to be together, there has to be something else that keeps them together. An external factor must keep them together. That external factor is necessity. Necessity is what keeps them together. Now you might think, Swaminathan, why are you talking about necessity? Is it not gravity and friction that keep these things together? Well, yes, but gravity and friction are also products of necessity. Now that requires a little bit more processing. How is that so? Well, the whole universe and its constructs and the way the fundamental laws and everything were born out of the mind. Attachment, bringing together, is a characteristic of the mind. So, whenever you create something, if you study basic Newtonian physics, every object pulls things towards itself. Which is true, because all objects are made of attachment. Attachment is written all over this. It's part of the DNA. So everything has a tendency to pull things towards it. That's why this is all in one piece. And this is one piece. Okay, this is now getting a little bit heavy. Let's come back. That's right, one step at a time. We don't need to rush this. One step at a time. Let's take the next 100 sermons and get this thing into our heads, because this is what we are all here for. Anicca, dukkha and anatta. But anicca, dukkha and anatta for what? For the sake of it? No. For what we talked about in the morning, which was acceptance. So that you are a more beautiful, a more pleasant, a more humble human being. That is what this is going to help you do. Because once you've understood the fundamentals here, I can then extend this thinking and take you to explain how your sense of self is also formed in the same way. To eradicate the sense of self, all you have to do is to understand how self occurs. If you understand the way the self comes into being, how the sense of self itself is a construct and it's not an entity, that understanding is what's going to help you to free the mind from the sense of self altogether. Again, I'm drawing a map here. This is a road map for what's to come. Okay, don't worry if none of this makes sense to you at the moment. Okay, rest assured, if all you've understood today is what I just explained to you about order and chaos, that's fine, because that was my intention. The rest of it is just teasers for things to come in the future. Don't worry about that. If all you understood is Swami Maharaj has some nice bricks that he brings every Sunday, that's also a step in the right direction. At least you come here to see me play with bricks. One day it will make sense, don't you worry. What do you need for that? Merits. What you need for that is merits. Right, before I conclude, let's quickly just wrap up the conversation once again. Here, we started by saying this is chaos. But the truth is, you can't declare that this is chaos here unless there is a necessity. So if I ask you, is this chaos or order? You can't answer that question unless you ask a question back of me. So I'm going to ask, what do you want out of it? If this is what I want, this is not chaos, this is order. Yes? Right. So then I asked you to give me an order. And you said tower. The moment you spoke out tower, I should not speak, but the moment, the concept, you conceptualize a tower in your mind, this is no longer order. Now this is chaos. Because it does not provide or manifest what's in your mind. So then what do we do, ladies and gentlemen, is we exert energy. This is what we call work. So if you may have learned, for physics we learned what work was, activity. So now you can start understanding work in another perspective. Work, the simple word work, is quite simply putting order to chaos. Otherwise, what use is work? Work is not where you go Monday to Friday. But that's the way you understand work. Work is where I go, Monday to Friday. That's the other side of my commute. That's why work is. No, think about what you do when you get to work. What do you do when you get to work? You put order to chaos. What if you skipped work for 2-3 weeks? They would have to shut the place down, right? Because they are inherently chaotic. Yeah? Because things are inherently chaotic, they have no requirement to be a certain way. See, this is why you are exhausted. Now this is going beyond where I wanted to stop it, but I can't help myself because you bring merits here. Stop doing that. Can you leave your merits home and just come with just the required quantity for the sermon? This is why you're exhausted. You're exhausted, you feel exhaustion, not just physically, but the psychological exhaustion as well, is because no matter how hard you keep trying, things always fall apart. Why? Because they are inherently chaotic. Nothing has an intention to be a certain way other than you. It is you who want your family to be together. That's why it's exhausting to try and keep it together. How about marriage? Inherently it's chaotic. So what do you have to do? Keep on putting energy. Your energy, see, it's the things you say, it's the things you do, and the things you don't say. Things that you really want to say but you don't. Things that you really want to say and do but you don't. All four of these things. The do's and the says and the don't do's and the don't says. They all require energy. That is work. So keeping a marriage together is hard? Yeah. You said it. Keeping a family together? Hard work. Baking a cake? What about that? It's hard work. Because the cake has no intention of being a cake. That's the thing. Because what do you have there? You have flour, you have sugar, you have butter, you have eggs, you have water. Those ingredients have no desire or intent to be a cake. So what must you do? You've got to put energy into it. Why do you stick it in the oven? What does the oven do? The oven actually gives out energy. You call it heat. Ultimately, it's just energy. So when the cake bakes, what you're really doing is putting energy that comes out of the oven into the substance. And that energy begins to be contained in the cake. And for as long as that energy is embodied in that cake will remain so. But in the moment you take it and leave it out, now there's energy in the environment as well. What do bacteria do? They also exert energy. Because their intention is not to keep the cake for you to eat. What does the bacteria want to do? They want that energy. So then they start working on it. That's why you put preservatives. That's why you stick it in the fridge. See, don't you see how life is just hard work? That's why you're exhausted. That's why you're here. That's why nothing this side of Nibbāna is bliss. That's why nothing this side of Nibbāna is bliss. Everything other than Nibbāna requires, come on, work. Work is energy. Energy requires intent, necessity. You're the one with the necessity. Because you're the one with necessity, you have to keep exerting energy to keep it a certain way. The way that you want. Tomorrow you want it another way. So then what do? Now you have to undo anything you've done and then redo something else. The only thing that lets you keep going like this is pleasure and vexation. That's the carrot. Because your mind vexes the moment you have a necessity for something to be a certain way, your mind goes into vexation. And then you start exerting energy and you try and make a change in the environment. And once the change is done, now what happens inside? You are relieved of that vexation and you experience a moment of pleasure. And then you convince yourself it was all worth it. The joy never came from the object. See, you put yourself through hell and back. Life is a living hell, ladies and gentlemen. Not in the conventional manner anymore. I mean it in the sense that I've just explained to you. This is for the intellectually bright. This is for the intelligent people among you, and that is all of you, I'm sure. Think of it in the way that I just explained it to you. Why I say that life is a living hell. I'm not talking about the purgatories. I'm not talking about the satarapaya. I'm talking about the fact that if you want to live, it's hard work. That's why Nibbāna paramam sukham. No wonder you're tired. No wonder you're exhausted. Tell me, how many more years of work after which are you going to be happy? People say, don't they? I'm building my house, right? I've got the foundation done and now working on the first floor. I want to got another floor to go, and once that's done, I'll be happy. Can that be true? Does the house want to be a house? Do the bricks want to be a house? Does the mortar want to be a house? Does the wind want to keep it a house? How about the rain? How about the sun? The elements? Do they want the house to be in that structure? No. Who's the only one who wants it to be in that way? You, the house owner. So from the moment you build that house, what's the next thing you're going to have to start doing? Maintain it. So what you have just done is you have created a stick for your own back. Everything you build up, you become the maintainer. Everything that you want to be in a certain way, don't forget, you have to keep pumping energy. So if you have one house, you have to keep pumping energy to keep that house up. What if you have 3? Lucky you, huh? So then tell me, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the happiest of them all? Is it the one with the 3 houses, or the one who has no house to maintain? Are they on that side or this side? So how then can you say that you are happier than me? I dare you. Yes, you never say, because you cannot say such a thing. It would be a lie. Not because I'm a monk per se, because in my mind, as I'm training myself to have fewer and fewer necessities, that's the crux of this. The fewer necessities you have, the fewer things you want to put order to. By their very nature, nothing inherently want to maintain their order, except for the mind that has the necessity. Yes? So then, if you have 10 things that you want to be in a particular order, ladies and gentlemen, you can bid farewell to your happiness. Is it just 10 things you have? Make a list of all the possessions that you have, both material and immaterial. Like I said, a marriage is not a material entity, but nonetheless, it's something you have to exert energy to, because you have a necessity to be with the other person. So it's hard work. Then you have your house. At home, you have your living room, your bedroom, your kitchen, your 2 bathrooms, and more. Then there's an outhouse. Then you have your holiday house. Not just one here, but also one in the UK, one in America, one in Australia. Then you have a boathouse. Then you have a caravan. Then you have a yacht. Before long, you can also have a house on the moon. Why not, eh? That's why I say, wealthy does not mean happy. Wealthy is to have much. Happy does not mean to have nothing. Happy means to have much happiness. It's okay to have a lot, as long as you don't have a necessity for them to be that way. Then it's okay. It doesn't matter how much you have. But in your mind, when you have a particular order that you want to maintain something in, then it's hard work. Think about the tree in your garden. Say there's an old tree, a tree that was planted by your great-grandfather. It's still there. It doesn't bear fruit anymore. It's just there. You don't water it, you don't put fertilizer, you don't care about it, right? It's not your problem. It's there until it's there, and one day it dies, it dies. That's not a weight on your shoulders, is it? But what about your flower bed? For those in the house who like to tend to their flowers, if you have a flower bed at home, what does that require? A lot of hard work. Why? Because you can't just let nature take its course. You can't just let nature take its course. Because you have a necessity. So that's the connection between order, chaos, and necessity in between. Make sense? What makes sense? Nibbāna, Paramansukha. Hopefully now it's not just because the Buddha said so. Now you understand it. Why Nibbāna and Paramansukha? Everything else is worldly. Worldly requires hard work. Right, let's leave it for the day then. Next week there's a blood donation campaign at the monastery, the quarterly one. If any of you are available, you can come along. And then we have the Vesak program on the 10th, 12th, thank you. On the 12th of May, which is on Vesak Day, on which we have we call it the family Buddha Puja. So everyone who's part of the Jetavana family, which includes all of you, you're all invited. And last week I asked if there were those who might wish to prepare something to offer as a Buddha Puja, and I think some of you had given your names, and we've brought the containers into which we would kindly ask you to prepare it. And the most important part of that is for you to do it together with everyone at home. So get them all involved in that merit. Because you see, it's merit that helps you on your path. This is the currency that you need on the noble path, merit, nothing else. It's not the amount of money you have in your bank account, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to help you find freedom and happiness. It's the merit power that you have. Money doesn't bring happiness. You know that from your own experience. Money doesn't bring happiness. Many poor people think that money brings happiness because they have not experienced what being rich is like. They don't know what it feels like to have money and still not be happy. That's why sometimes the poor look down on the rich and they are jealous of them, or they think that, well, that's black money. dirty money, blood money. People tend to say that because they don't understand that happiness does not come in money. If they did, that's not what they should be looking at. They should be eyeing happiness in the sasana. But you invite them to come to the sasana, not interested. You invite them to go to a seminar where they teach you how to make money, no sooner than you say they've signed up. Otherwise, the beggars on the streets, what do they have to do on a Sunday? I understand they may not understand the language, but if we did this sermon in Sinhalese, let's just say, the beggars on the streets, right? They don't have, I know what you mean, I know you're probably thinking, but they have to go find something to eat. Well, we give them free sandwiches. But put that to aside, if you ask them to come and sit down in a sermon, they wouldn't do that. Because they think that which brings me happiness is not the Dhamma, it's money. So I should be out on the streets making money. That's the poor mindset. But you have had your fair share of wealth now to understand that wealth is not what brings you happiness. So actually, in some senses, ladies and gentlemen, it's easier for you to take this next step. Like Prince Siddhartha, he experienced what being rich was all about. He spent his life in the luxury of happiness and joy in the way that his father wanted him to, the 3 palaces, right, with anything at his beck and call, and still he couldn't find satisfaction. There was nothing else left for him to try out, enjoy, experience. He had experienced it all. That's when he took to monkhood. That's why I always say, the sasana begins where worldly happiness ends. Not the bottom end, the top end. The top end of the worldly happiness, one step up from that, is the bottom end of the happiness you get from the sasana. The end of this is Nibbāna Paramam Sukham. So, on the 12th, we have the poet, Vesak. We have brought containers, please collect them from the organizers. And if there's anyone else who wishes to collect a bowl, we've actually, I think, brought a few spare. So if there's enough, we can give out to anyone who might not have been here last week and who would still like to join in. So there's going to be a grand procession at the monastery. All of you will be taking part in that procession, like you have on the regular Dakkinayo. It's just the monks and the Anagarikas and our noble hearts children. But for this one, someone from your family can also take part in the procession. So it's our offering to the Buddha. Is it for him or for us? Why do we make offerings to the Buddha? For him or for us? It's for us. Because the Buddha has nothing to do with whatever you're going to offer him today. It's long gone. But we offer it to the virtue that is Buddha. Not to the Buddha as a person, but to the virtue that is Buddha. That's what that offering is for. Okay, let's conclude then with the merit transfer. Before we finish, just one more thing I wanted to mention, because this is something not many of you get to see. Because by this point, most of you have left. I'm not suggesting you should all stick around to see it, but I want you all to rejoice in it. After Swami Wahanse has finished his affairs at the school and when about to leave, usually it's quite hot at that time. So sometimes just after 12 or 1-ish. And because the ground is quite hot, people who stick around until then, one of the things that they do is they get wet towels and they put it under the pavada so that Swami Wahanse doesn't get his feet burnt. Until they walk and get into the car. I have never felt the heat of the floor, not even on a sunny day. But while Swami Wahanse is walking barefoot, and we are pretty used to walking barefoot at the monastery, we are always barefoot. The devotees who have made this offering, they have no footwear. They're on the stone floor, really hot floor, ground, and their feet are burning, but I sometimes feel at that point they probably don't even feel that, because their hearts are just full of joy and devotion and respect. It's just something that you don't get to see much, because this happens right at the end, just before Swami Vivekananda's head off, when it's quite hot out there. It's just such a beautiful thing to do. Once again, I'm not suggesting now that you should all stick around to do it, but it's not in the hand that does it merit is born. It's in the thought that rejoices in it. So you can all rejoice in it. Just the sheer rejoicing of it is what I want. Let those who can do it, do it. But we can all rejoice in it, right? So I wanted to share that with you, so that this is another thing that the Dharmishta Rajagiriyans do week on week. And let's all rejoice in that beautiful meritorious deed. Let us all take a moment then to transfer the merits that we have all acquired by making offerings to the infinite virtues of the Noble Triple Gem, inviting everyone here to listen to the sermon, inviting the Swami Mahansi to deliver the sermon, as well as creating a conducive environment for all to come along, practice the path, and attain to their spiritual enlightenment. First and foremost, let us transfer all these merits to the bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, upasakas and upasikas, who have since time immemorial protected and preserved the sublime teachings of the Buddha and passed it down through the generations of the noble lineage in the form of the Tripitaka, which is thankfully available to us today to study, understand and comprehend the Dhamma. Let us take a moment to transfer these merits to all the monks and nuns resident throughout the world, including your local temples and nunneries, as well as the Mahanayakas, the Anunayakas of all the chapters throughout the world. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to my teacher, Guru Swami Mahansi, as well as all the monks resident at the monastery, and the Anagarikas and Anagarikas attached to the monastery. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to those who make great efforts to disseminate the teachings of the Buddha, be that by transliterating these talks, sharing them out with others, or inviting others to join them. And let us also transfer merits to those who are friends of the monastery, our devotees, who, for the sake of merits to help them attain the bliss of Nibbāna, continue to sustain the Mahasangha, be that by offering alms, robes, medicines, as well as shelter, as well as those who pass on their know-how and continue to extend their well wishes. May they all rejoice in these merits, and by the power of these merits, may they be healed of any physical and mental ailments and overcome any obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, nephews and nieces, our friends, our acquaintances, our employers, our employees, our teachers, as well as anyone and everyone who've helped make our lives that much better and as much as they possibly could. By the power of these merits, may they also be freed of any physical and mental ailments and overcoming obstacles to their spiritual progress. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to the Devas and Brahmas, spirits and demons, primarily the Sakadeva, as well as all the numerous gods and deities who have committed themselves to fulfill and preserve the sum of the Sasana. Let us transfer these merits to our guardian deities who keep a watchful eye over us and keep us out of harm's way. May they prosper in divine power and wisdom. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the Noble Eightfold Path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbāna. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Let us also take a moment to transfer these merits to our forefathers, our ancestors, those who have passed away in our name, reminding ourselves that it is in their blood, sweat and tears today we are able to enjoy the comforts of life as we do. Let us also transfer these merits to members of the armed forces as well as the police force who sacrifice their lives to protect the peace and harmony of our nation, as well as transfer these merits to those who lost their lives in the wars, be their friend or foe, as well as those who have lost their lives in natural calamities and disasters such as the tsunamis and earthquakes, landslides, fires, floods, pandemics and so on, reminding ourselves that in this infinitely long journey of samsara, they will all have been mothers and fathers to us, friends to us, those who have helped us, supported us and assisted us in any way, shape or form. And so with an abundance of compassion and loving kindness towards them and a sense of gratitude for all that they have done for us, let us transfer all these merits that we have acquired to all of them. May by the power of these merits, if any of them have been born in the woeful planes, they redeem themselves and be born in the blissful plane. May they abstain from the unmeritorious deeds, fulfill the meritorious deeds, fulfill the noble eightfold path, and may they all attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. And finally, may by the power and blessings of all the merits we have acquired throughout the day, we be able to witness the advent of many hundreds of thousands of Arahants on this blessed land. And finally, may you and I and everyone who's helped make this program a success become an enlightened Arahatun Mahanse or an Arahattiranin Mahanse in this very life itself and in the era of the Sri Sambuddhasasana itself. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May the blessings of the Noble Triple Gem be with you all. The members of the Mahasangha will now transfer their blessings to you. Rajagiriyan midatva dveshagiriyan midatva mohagiriyan midatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva mamada siyalu loka siyalu satvayo Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Rajagini niveva dveshagini niveva mohagini Nivan sapa labeva Nivan sapa labeva Nivan sapa labeva Tunruange suvisi ananta mahaguna belen siruloka siru satyuma Nibbāna parama sukhayan sukhita taravatva Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.